What's up, everybody? Jason here with another song breakdown for you. Okay, so this song is a lot like most of the songs I've been covering for you in that I started writing this one back in 2011. I finished it up last year sometime and I put it on my album Forever. It's called Angel. So if you haven't heard it yet, go to my website, aloststateofmind.com, go to the album Forever and listen to the song Angel. This is one of my few love songs, and how this relates to the last couple songs I've been showing you is because it is an older song, a lot of the plugins that I have aren't, they're not working, meaning either I didn't install them or they're not really working for this version of Pro Tools. As a result, what you're going to hear today might sound a little bit different from the final mix that you hear on my website. Most noticeably, it'll be the main guitar riff. It's just going to be the clean guitar. There's not any added effects to it because, again, the plugin I used, which was Guitar Rig, which is an amp simulator, I used Guitar Rig 4, and now I've upgraded to Guitar Rig 5, and I'm just too lazy to reinstall Guitar Rig 4. So you'll get the idea, though. How this is also like the last song I uploaded is I added a drone note in the chorus, which I'll show you in a minute. So in the spirit of not making this video as long as my last video was, I'm just going to go right to it. So here you have the song. Again, it's called Angel. This is the whole mix right here. You have your intro, your verse, and then here you have your chorus, and then you have your verse again. And then instead of going back in straight into the chorus, I actually go into a solo, which goes back into the final chorus. So the song structure is intro, verse, chorus, verse, guitar solo, then final chorus, and then the song just ends. Another thing, because I did write the song a long time ago, it's not as complicated as some of the songs I write today are. So it should be easier to follow. But there are some techniques that I utilize, especially in the chorus of the song, to make it more interesting, to make it grab you. I do sing in this song, and I do have the vocals. Like I always say, I'm not the best vocalist. I'm not the best singer. So if I solo these vocals, it's going to sound like crap probably, but within the mix, it's okay. It's okay enough for me to not be embarrassed by you guys hearing how I sound when I sing. I'm not going to play the vocals to the very end, though. So right now, it's just going to be the main song structure, and then I'll finish off everything by showing you the vocals. So what you have here is you have the drum track, and then you also have the main guitar riff. Then you have a different guitar riff that I play during the chorus. And just like the main guitar riff, it doesn't have any effects added onto it either because, again, Guitar Rig, it's the old version. This track right here, this is the piano track. It's kind of neat. I made it myself. Right here is the bass track. There's something unique about this bass track that is different from the last few songs I've shown you. And then here you have a few extra. You have a synth bass type track, and then you have these. It's kind of like the last song. It's not a death cry, but it's a whiny noise that comes in. It's like a drone note that I use to add ambience to the chorus. This track right here, this is more or less a gunshot sound, which I'll get into in a second. Now, all these right here are my vocals. And then the last bit of the song, I have two guitar tracks that they're rhythm tracks for the solo, and then these two tracks are the solos. Solo or solos. There's two of them, so I made it plural. So we'll start off with the guitars like I always do, because that's usually the most interesting thing. I know the bass is the anchor to songs, but in explaining the song, I like to start with the guitars first because it's the prettiest sounding. So I'll go ahead and solo this, and this is what the main guitar riff sounds like. And that's pretty much it. It's the same guitar riff, but I play them two different times and I pan them hard left and hard right to add more of an image. Again, like I've said before, if you haven't seen my other videos, I tend to pan my guitars left and right to just make the song sound wider. After the verse is done, I scoot over a little bit, and you're going to see these two tracks, this little area that I just highlighted. This is kind of like the pre-chorus to the chorus. It's like the build-up. I like to transition into choruses to let the listener know that, hey, a chorus is about to come, because a lot of times going from a verse straight to a chorus, it's too abrupt of a change. It can work, but sometimes I back myself in a corner and I put myself in a situation where I can't make it work unless I transition. This is what the guitar sounds like right before the chorus with the pre-chorus. And that's that. Now it abruptly stopped because this part right here is it's the same guitar. I put it in a different track to alter the sound just a little bit more to fit within the chorus. It's the same guitar, but it's just a different riff. That's going to be fun to explain. But before I do that, I'll go back and I'll play the drum track for the verse. So I'm going to solo it by itself, which is what solo means. So sorry for being redundant. And I'm going to play you what it sounds like when it first comes in. So if you look right here, you can see that the guitars start off right away, and then the drums do too. But when the drums start off, it's more of like a lead in, and then it hits the real thing. It hits the actual part of the drums where it's actually a rhythm track rather than just a fill. So check this out. Now, with the guitars, this is what it sounds like. Now, in preparation for this video, because this is an older song, I do make some changes to the audio. So it's not mixed per se, it's not mastered per se, but I make it sound good enough just so you can hear it on this channel, or on these videos rather, and it still sounds good to you. Again, the reason why it's not fully mixed is because, again, going back to the song being written a long time ago, a lot of the plugins I used to use, I'm not using anymore. So another thing I did is I made these drums quieter. I'm going to start doing that from now on, because I noticed that in most of the mixes, the drums are a little bit too loud, and it takes away from the rest of the song that I'm trying to show you. So it kind of defeats the purpose if the drum's too loud and you can barely hear the guitar. So if the drums are a little bit quieter, that's why. The next part of this verse right here, and really the only other thing, is the bass track. There is one more thing, the piano, but it's not really prominent in the mix. But I will show you that in a second. So I'm going to solo the bass. Now, if you caught it, I made the drums have more of a groove to it. The guitar itself is just very, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no groove to the guitar. So I compensated for that by adding a groove to the drums, and I also added a groove to the bass to kind of give it more of a, not a dancey feel, because this isn't a dance song, but just more of a moving feel, if that makes any sense. So here's the bass by itself. And as you can tell, there's a little bit of distortion in this bass, but unlike most of my songs, I decided to pull back on the bass, especially during the chorus, because during the chorus I add a synth bass in there, but it was just enough to kind of glue everything together. So when you add the bass in with the drums, you're gonna hear the groove a lot better. So if it's just the bass and the drums, here we go. Now, when you throw the guitar in there, because the guitars are rigid. It is a rigid song, but the bass and the drums with the groove. Hopefully, you guys will hear you'll hear the difference as what the song could be and what it is. So here's everything: bass, guitars, and drums. And that's pretty much the entire verse. What happens though is this is where the vocals start. And I'm actually going to play the vocals now rather than wait to the end just to give you more of a context. So I'll get to that in a second. But this is where the vocals start. And so I have about 16 measures where it's just the vocals with the guitar, drums, and bass, and then a piano comes in. And this is what the piano sounds like by itself right here. Let me scoot this over so you can see it better. Now that's the part of the song where the pre-chorus comes in, and so the pre-chorus starts about right here, and it takes a second, but then the actual piano comes in. So the piano is soloed, but again, you're going to hear everything up to where the piano starts. And that's that. Now, if I play everything together, you'll hear how the piano kind of glues the verse in. But before I actually do that, let me go back down and show you the vocals. So for the verse, I have a group of vocals here. These are the verse vocals, and I also have a set of backing vocals here. So I'm going to play everything within context. Okay, I'm not going to just solo these vocals. There's not much to them. I added a flanger to my vocals. I generally don't do that, but I did like the effect for this particular song. So you're going to hear everything with this with the vocals. What I do want to do though is show you that in this section of the song, I do actually have backing vocals. If I can't hear them as I play this for you, I'll go ahead and solo them so you can hear what I did there. Let me show you the whole mix too so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so here's everything. I'm going to start a little bit before the bass comes in, and you're going to hear all of it, including the piano. And this is where the pre-chorus starts right here. And you'll hear the piano. And that's that. Now, this part of the vocals, I did add a harmony to it because I didn't just want it to be stagnant in this section. So I added this part right here. And it's this section right here. Something about you. And then when you add that to the main riff, there's just something about you, I don't know what. So you get the idea. You also can understand how you can take shitty vocals and make them blend in with a good track. So vocals 101 for all you ladies and gentlemen listening. So now that we're done with the verse, just like it always is with me, it's very simple. Again, just to review, I have my drums, I have my two guitars right here, I have my bass line right here, I have a piano that comes in halfway through the second part of the verse, and then it does a pre-chorus, and then I have my vocals with my backing vocals. That's it. It's the same thing with the second verse, except for the piano does go on a little bit more. I'll explain that briefly when I get to it. The second part of the song is the chorus. Now, this is unique in that for the longest time, the chorus actually had the main guitar riff, okay? This is why I never published this song. This is why it took so long. And last year, I moved to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and there's something about Portsmouth that's just... I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but there's something there that really it inspired me to write a lot. And so at some point I revisited the song and I decided to change up the way the chorus sounded. So instead of having the main guitar riff, which is this, I decided to not do that. And so I'm going to start off again with the drums on the chorus, and you can see, you'll be able to hear how the drums in the chorus sound. So here we go. This is the drum track, and this is the section I'll be covering. And that's that. Now, in order to be consistent with the groove, I did the same thing with the bass in that I made the bass groovy rather than stagnant. So I'm going to let you listen to the bass solo, and then I'm going to combine them. So this section right here, this is the bass. I'm going to start it a little bit before. Now with the drums, it's going to sound like this. Again, I'm going to start just before the chorus on the bass and the drums now. So there's that. Now, what I did differently with the guitar was this. It didn't take me long to come up with this. I think I might have been drinking. So it sounded really good to me. It sounded really pretty to me, and I just went with it. And it actually fit the song perfectly for me. So these are the two guitar tracks. And you're going to, actually, I'm going to play a little bit before so you can actually hear the old guitar, and then it's going to cut in to this section that's highlighted, okay? And that is that. So when you combine that with the drums and the bass, you're going to hear this. All right, so now I remember when I was writing this song, I wanted the drums to sound a lot more epic during the chorus. See, I do a couple things with the drums to trick the listeners into thinking the song's bigger than it really is, okay? One of the things that I do is I will actually raise the volume of the drums maybe by a decibel during the chorus. As you can see here, this is my volume automation. The volume here is about -7, but when I get to the chorus, it gets to about -5. So it rises up a little bit. There's two reasons why I do that. One, because I want it to sound more exciting, but two, because there's a lot more generally involved with the chorus, a lot more instruments. I need to raise the levels of the drums to actually make it audible. Another thing that I do is I have a couple plugins. One of them that I use is called BX Control. It's from this company called Plugin Alliance. And it's amazing because I can actually spread the stereo width of a track or of a mix if I wanted to. And so what I'll do generally is during the verse, I will actually dial back the stereo width of, let's say, the drums. Not anything else, just the drums. And so during the verse, I'll make the stereo width at like 50% as opposed to the default 100%. So the drums, in a sense, become more mono during the verse. And then during the chorus, I'll automate it so that to where the drum stereo spread is maybe over 100% just slightly, so it has a huge stereo spread. So it opens up the song a lot more. I'm not going to go too much into automation, but in a nutshell, automation, basically when you input automation, it tells the program to do things automatically. So for example, I want the volume to automatically rise here without me having to do anything. So I draw in my automation here, and the program knows now when it goes from here to raise the volume, for example. Sometimes it can be panning, it can be muting, it can be plug-in automation, but that's what automation is. So, but even with doing that, with all that being said, the drums still didn't sound epic enough. So I found this sample. It sounds like a gunshot. It's not, I don't think. So by itself, down here, this is the track that plays. This is it by itself. And so basically, this is all printed. I created this, and I ended up printing it like this just to save myself some CPU power. What this does, though, I actually added a shit ton of reverb, and I added a slight distortion. And what it does is it opens up the snare hit. So if I play this along with the drum track, okay, I'm going to play it without it first, and then I'm going to play it with it. So I'm going to play it for a measure, and then I'm going to play it with it for a measure. So without and then with, and you'll hear how it is. So right now it's not on. It's just going to be the drums. So you get the idea. Generally, I'll just add, I'll use an aux send to add reverb into the snare, but I wanted a more prominent effect in this particular song. The last thing before I play everything is you have a piano track. I added this piano track because the guitars by themselves weren't enough for me. I needed to fill out the guitar, and so I created this piano track. So here is the piano track. This is right before the chorus. And you're going to hear where it does this little single note hits, and then right in this section is where the main piano comes in. And that's that. And with the guitars, it sounds just like this. Now, the effect is subtle, but it does fill out some of the lower end of the guitar. I write a lot of piano for my music, but I tend to write it as a secondary thing as opposed to, like, my first album was all piano composition. writing piano stuff is too fucking depressing for me, so I tend to stay away from it. So for those of you that are wondering if I'm ever going to write a piano composition album again, probably not. So here's everything again without the synth bass I'm about to show you and without that drone note. So here we go. And I might make some volume adjustments as this plays because I think something is a little bit too loud, but you'll get the idea. All right, and so the last thing, of course, as you can tell, this chorus still didn't stand out to me. It sounded really pretty, it sounded good, but it wasn't enough oomph. And those that know me know that I love distortion, but I didn't want to rely solely on the bass for a distortion background for this chorus, and I didn't want to have heavy guitars in this song, at least not at this point. So what I did is I took a bass synth. I forget what program I used. It was a vintage synth plugin that I use, maybe Monarch from Native Instruments, I can't tell, but I found this really nice sound and it seemed to fit. So here's the sound. It actually builds up on the pre-chorus, so it starts to come in and you'll hear it when I actually play everything. You're going to hear it kind of fade in, and then this is the bass synth, and it follows the actual bass in the song. So you have this nice, clean, but gritty sound. Again, I'm not much of a synth fan, and I appreciate Nine Inch Nails. I appreciate bands like Frontline Assembly, Skinny Puppy. They're amazing at what they do with their synths, but I like to just do a lot of things to my songs. I don't like to rely solely on one thing, except for maybe the guitars. And the very last thing I'll show you before I actually play this chorus and in its entirety with everything is I used a drone note. It's not much, but the effect I used had a nice little ambience to it, like some wind chimes, for example. So you have this nice lead that comes in, and you have the wind chimes, and I felt like it was a good complement to the chorus. It was a good ambient complement to what I already wrote. So this is it by itself, and these are the two tracks that I use. One thing I like to do with background noise when it's not prominent in the mix is I don't feel like I have to be necessarily complicated with it. I have to be very careful, especially with orchestral instruments, because I have to make it seem like it's an instrument or it's a piece of music that somebody would actually want to play. But a lot of times I ignore that, and I'll use stringed instruments and I'll use orchestral instruments as an effect rather than as a piece somebody would actually play at a concert. With that being said, a lot of these instruments that I use, whether it's synth or orchestral instruments, are usually background noise, and so I can get away a lot more with using two notes. As you heard here, it's just two notes I'm using. It's just up and down, up and down. I don't know what the notes are, but it's within the key of the music. And so, again, it's just a compliment. I'm not trying to get crazy. I'm not trying to get technical. So if you notice a lot of my music, or if you hear the background noise, it's usually just very simple. It's just there. It's a compliment. And this is everything together. I'm going to start right when the pre-chorus starts, and you're going to hear how this synth bass builds up. I'm going to squish everything so you can see how everything works together. And then after that, I'm going to get into the vocals, and you'll hear how the vocals come into play with this chorus. So here is everything, all this right here. Now, what's funny is, I mentioned Portsmouth before. The album Portsmouth, as well as a few songs on this album that the song is on right here, Forever. Even though a lot of these songs in Forever were written a while ago, they're very Portsmouthy. It's the only way I can express to listeners how I felt while I lived there. Obviously, I'm not going to get into detail, but I was going through a hard time back then. And so I'm the kind of person that I don't have music ever in my brain. I just sit down and I doodle, and if it sounds right, I use it, okay? A lot of times with the lyrical content, it comes after, but it's always based on how I'm feeling at the time. So if I'm feeling in whatever mood and I'm starting to doodle on my guitar, if it feels right, I use it. And then the lyrics oftentimes will fall into place, if that makes any sense. They will fall into places how I felt, because I always remember what each song is supposed to mean, even if it's an instrumental. And this chorus is definitely a Portsmouth. It's definitely the attitude I had at the time. So it's it's interesting to go back and listen to these songs, because I'm the kind of person where I don't listen to old music. I write music, I listen to it to critique it. I might listen to a song up to 100 or 200 times because I'm analyzing it. I'm trying to make it sound great. After I'm done, I am done. I move on and I don't listen to these. So a lot of these songs I'm coming back to after a couple of years. I'm like, holy shit. So, so here is, this is going to be the vocals for the chorus. I had this set up that I didn't want to start singing right away. I do a lot of talking in my music. Especially, this is the first song I did this to. I'm also doing this with a new song where I talk before I actually sing. And so what I did with this is I actually, I did 3 instances of me talking. So I did it one time, I re-recorded it again, and I re-recorded it one last time. Now, one thing you'll notice too is a lot of my vocals, you'll see how they're chopped up. I do what's called vocal comping, where I'll sing a riff maybe 10 or 20 times. What that allows me to do is it allows me to pull the best of each clip and make it into one compilation clip. It's called vocal comping, and you can see that in this track right here. If you go up to my verse, you'll see how I kind of do the same thing here. If you think that's cheating, I watched an interview with Justin Timberlake's producer, and he was saying how he'll have Justin Timberlake sing like a verse 100 times just to get it right. The benefit to that is the more you sing, the better you get. And oftentimes the first few takes I don't even use. I just go off the other one. So it's not cheating. It's what we all do. Now this is the very first part of the chorus. I'm just going to solo it and you're going to hear it by itself. It's a little rough around the edges, but you'll deal. And this is it. Staring in an angel's eyes, I remind myself of the reasons why. And you can hear how adding the 3 vocal layers kind of gives it more of a chorusy sound, makes it sound like the vocals are doubled up. This vocal is going straight down the middle, and these 2 vocals are panned left to right. So I have a nice stereo spread with these. Generally, my vocals are down the center, or my backup vocals will be panned left and right. You'll see how the first vocal here doesn't have a flanger, but the other 2 vocals do. These 2 vocal tracks are where I sing. And so they're going down the center, and these last 2 tracks are my backup vocals. So after I did that first part, you already heard it, so I won't torture you again. I'm going to play you the chorus, or rather the lead vocals for the chorus. So I'm going to start a little bit before, and you're going to hear where I was just talking, and you're going to hear me singing solo. Of the reasons why I choose life over apathy, I choose love over misery. When our souls collide, I am so alive, I can finally breathe. You bring out the best in me. Now, a lot of times I'll cut in between the clips to get rid of any background noise that I have. I also do this to get rid of any smacks and breaths if I don't want any breaths in there. It just depends on how into the song I want to sound. So that's the main vocals for the chorus. Then you have these backup vocals, which is right here. Souls collide, I am alive. And of course, you can tell I wasn't on time that much there. Now, it all sounds kind of funky now. clips being cut up and everything, but I promise you, when everything is in the mix, it all blends in together and you don't notice it. The same thing, again, I suck at pitch, and every once in a while, if the pitch is close enough, I might just go ahead and just edit the pitch a little bit, but most of the time I'll just re-sing it. I don't think I sang these like 4 years ago, so they're not the best, but again, they sound better in the mix. So all together, with everything for the chorus, this is the chorus right here. I'm going to start right before, and you're going to hear everything come into play.
Life over apathy, I choose love over misery. When our souls collide, I am so alive. I can finally breathe. You bring out the best in me.
And that's that. The last thing I want to show you before I'm done with this video is I want to show you where the song has its guitar solo, okay? Actually, before I get into that, the second verse, the only thing that's different is this piano track right here. This is what it sounds like by itself. And it repeats. Again, I added that to change up the second verse. Altogether, it sounds like this. Right before I get into the solo / chorus, I have this other piano. It's just like a pre-chorus in a way, kind of like what I did before, but instead of going from pre-chorus to chorus, it goes pre-chorus to actual guitar solo. And this is what the piano sounds like. It's the same guitar riff as the other pre-chorus. Everything's the same, but the piano is different, and this is what it sounds like soloed. Now, all together, it sounds like this. And you can hear the solo kick in. So now with the solo, there's not much going on. It's just two guitars, the bass, a guitar solo, and the drums. But the drums are a lot more exciting. So this is a preview of what the drums sound like during the solo. So as you can tell, there's a lot of change-ups in there. The bass sounds like this. And so with the drums, it sounds like... And there's not much to it. The same thing with the guitar. The guitar and the bass pretty much go together. They're meant to be, backing tracks because the solo is supposed to be the highlight of this part of the song. So, like I always do, the guitars are recorded separately, pan left and pan right. They're doing the same thing. Now with the drums and the bass. And that's all there is to it. And the last thing you have is the solo. And I'm going to solo the solo, and then I'm going to bring it all in together so you guys can hear what it all sounds like. It's a very rough solo, by the way, because I suck at guitar solos. So I'll play the whole thing in its entirety. I just wanted you guys to hear what the solo sounded like by itself. Obviously, there's a lot of delay, some reverb, but the guitars are going straight down the middle because generally I have the snare, bass, and vocals going down the middle, and usually the lead guitar is off to the side somewhere. But because the solo is a highlight of this, it's going straight down the middle. When I write solos, they tend to be broken up into pieces, which is why you have 2 tracks with the solo, because I'm not a soloist. I'm not even a good guitarist. I just write what sounds good for that segment, move on to the next segment. So I know how to make my solos sound seamless, but I promise you I'm not that good. So here is everything all together. And I'll play the whole thing so you guys can hear it, and then I'll explain one last thing and I'll be done. All right, so what's funny about this is I forgot to cut off this part of the solo where I unplugged the guitar from its jack, but I just left it in the song. It just seemed to be part of the song, so I never took it out. But that's this part right in this area right here. So that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes you make mistakes, and sometimes you roll with them, and sometimes you don't. Now, the last thing, I wanted the chorus color, i.e. the guitars and everything, to really stand out. So I didn't want to just go directly into me singing. I wanted a section of the song where it highlighted the beauty of the guitars. So just like with the first 2 choruses, I added a pre-chorus. And not first 2 choruses, the first chorus and the pre-chorus before the solo. I did it again here. It's very simple. But when I go back into the chorus, I don't sing right away. I'm just going to play it. You've heard everything else already, but I liked how it sounded by itself. So here we go. And you can kind of see where I repeated, you bring out the best in me, bring out the best in me, while the backing chorus said the same thing. So I like interweaving vocals sometimes. I like making them do different things. So that is the song Angel in a nutshell. it seems a lot more complicated than it actually is, and it's definitely complicated explaining it, and it took longer than I expected. I apologize for the long videos, but you know, if you don't like them, you don't have to watch them, and I understand. This isn't for everyone, but you know, it's just to me, I love deconstructing music. I love figuring out how it works. You know, it's something that I try to do as a kid, and this is kind of my way of giving back. If you're a fan of my music and you're like, how the hell did you do that? This is me going, hey, this is what I did. And my hope is that when you write or you put something together, you might remember some techniques that I use, and you can say, hey, let me try that. Now, I'm not stingy. I don't, you know, I'm not one of those people that feels like I have to hide, you know, all my techniques. Music is music, and it's a form of expression. And if I use a synth bass and it sounds great and you like that technique and it works well for something you're trying to do and it makes you feel good, that's awesome. That really is. So that's it. Be sure to check out my website, aloststateofmind.com. Check out my music. It's all free. Everything I do is free. If you want to donate, you can by either donating on my Lost State of Mind page with the donate button that's somewhere in there, or you can just buy my music. But again, you do not have to. If you go to download a song, just type in 0.00 and it'll allow you to still download the music. It's totally up to you. I just want you to appreciate the music and have fun with it. So that is it, and I have nothing else to say for once. Thanks for watching.